I would say that the positive things is an end to uncertainty. As you know, investors hate uncertainty. They don't like tariffs, but they hate uncertainty even more than tariffs. So that's a big deal. Secondly, the sunset clause, which was pretty controversial, has been watered down. And then there is a strong dispute settlement mechanism. And Mexico wants to have a level playing field. The U.S. is big, Mexico is small. So Mexico needs to have a dispute resolution to deal with a big neighbor up north. So those are good things for Mexico.
What about the idea of the sunset? I'm still a little unclear on it. This is a 16-year deal that needs to be reviewed every 6 years, meaning what? It doesn't have to be approved every 6 years, but we agree to just take a look at it?
That's right. So the original idea was sudden death after 5 years unless the three parties agreed otherwise. And that generates uncertainty, and that was an absolute no-go. So I think that was a creative solution. I'm okay with a new sunset.
What do you think of this minimum wage, $16 an hour in certain areas? Is that a significant percentage increase for many workers in Mexico? And how is it going to be policed and enforced from the U.S. side?
To be frank, I don't think you will be seeing $16 an hour wages in Mexico. So the idea is that high-wage production would take place in the U.S. or Canada, if Canada joins, and high labor-intensive production, for example, in car seats or the harnesses, the wiring will take place in Mexico. What is unprecedented is that in free trade agreements, you have regional rules of origin. You don't have national rules of origin. And even though this is called $16 an hour wage, you could put there U.S. or Canada. I mean, that's equivalent. This is a whole new ballgame.
I mean, NAFTA already existed, so we understand that that there are political, I guess, manipulation of free trade to some extent. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be, you know, just where everything flows freely. The Journal is criticizing this trade deal for the president, the Wall Street Journal, in that we are manipulating or managing. President Trump is deregulating everything domestic, tearing down regulations, but adding to international regulations. Does this new deal lessen the regulations under NAFTA, or are we just layering on more things for business to deal with in both Mexico and the United States?
Well, the original NAFTA is like a phone book. You know, it's hundreds of rules. So it was really, in a way, managed trade. And one way that trade is managed is through rules of origin, because you have free trade in regard to tariffs, zero tariffs. But to get zero tariffs, you need to be producing regionally. And what is considered regionally? That's what you get to rules of origin. And that's where you get managed trade. So there was managed trade before, and there's managed trade now. I do think that the rules of origin in autos are pretty strict, and they're complex, and companies will have to calculate, do they live with the new NAFTA rules, or do they go through the WTO rules, which are clear and simple, as long as there are no new tariffs on autos? You know, the threat to do the 232 national security tariffs on autos. If that goes into play, again, that's a complete game changer, and companies could be jammed. It's NAFTA or nothing.
What is the situation just in terms of whether this will be a trilateral deal or a bilateral deal? Because I'm confused. I've read conflicting statements out of Mexico as to whether or not they would go ahead with this without Canada.
So Mexico very badly wants a trilateral deal, but at the end of the day, it's a decision that Canada has to make. From an economic perspective, Canada will suffer high costs if it's excluded from the new agreement. So it's not only benefits of membership. If they're left out, it'll be very problematic for them. But politically, it will be difficult for the prime minister to say, well, I'm negotiated under pressure, and I've received something that looks like an ultimatum, right? So sign by Friday, or we're going to go along with Mexico. The politics are complicated. The economics are more clear.
Does NAFTA cease to exist if there's not a deal that's agreed to by Friday? What's your understanding of this?
No, because for NAFTA to cease to exist, the U.S. would have to withdraw, and that's a 6-month process. So the U.S. would still have to deal with that. Right. That's right.